Hey guys, it's Leah. The system recently got back from a fun trip to Tennessee. We were visiting the Bio family, which actually went way better than at least I was expecting. Yeah, we'll probably post a separate video altogether on how the trip went with family dynamics and the ups and downs and all that because there were lots of ups, but we have dissociative identity disorder, so there were downs. Um, but for this video, we're going to focus on the fun vacations within the vacation. We were gone from the 21st of March to the 6th of April, which spanned 3 whole weekends, so we got to do a lot of stuff when we were up in Tennessee. The first weekend, we just spent lounging around the Bio family's house and recovering from that brutal 15-hour drive, which fortunately Seth, Autumn's husband, was the only driver, and he decided to drive it all in one go, despite us leaving at noon. So technically we didn't arrive until the 22nd. But it was a pretty uneventful trip. Autumn fronted for the majority of it, but she spent most of that time ping-ponging back and forth from passed out asleep and really, really car sick. So doesn't sound uneventful, but it's pretty typical for us, so it was. There was a cute little thing that happened with Belle, our little.
Hey guys. So, Leah told me that she wanted me to talk about one of the stories for whenever we were in the process of driving up to the Bio family recently. Specifically regarding whenever Belle fronted in during the car trip. Basically, what led to it was just that Belle was just being restless in the system, to my understanding. I still have a hard time wrapping my head around everything. It's a lot to take in. But Belle was just being a little restless and just wanted to come out and play. And I was like, well, I mean, if she really wants to, I mean, she can. It won't be that much fun. We're just in a car ride. So Belle got to experience road tripping. And it was dark at this point in the night. Like, it was probably about 11 o'clock at night while we were driving. And whenever she, started to, kind of be okay with the place, she was like, she looked at me and she goes, "It's dark outside." I was like, yeah, it's very dark outside right now. You know, just talking to the kid. And she goes, "It's cool. It's dark. It's cool." And I was like, yeah, it's cool. It can be cool, yeah. And I mentioned to her, I'm like, we actually have blackout curtains in our bedroom. So whenever we close them in, we it's very dark in the room. I'll be able to show it to you once we get back home. She goes, "Why?" And I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean, why? She goes, "The dark belongs on the outside. It shouldn't be inside. The dark belongs on the outside." It's like, oh, okay. And I kind of didn't know what to do with that, but that was just a fun story. The dark belongs on the outside.
Other than that, I certainly didn't front for the trip. But for the next weekend after that, the system, the Bio parents, and Seth, everyone went to Dollywood for the day. Autumn and James were fronting for the majority of that trip, but Belle, Evelyn, and I all made appearances. Sometimes unexpectedly and inconveniently. Ooh. Hey, it's James fronting now. Oh, I'm so glad we made a script. I didn't participate in the intro video that we published last week, but I did wind up on the short we posted earlier this week. Give me a second. Hey everyone, like I said, it's James. We did a thing where we wrote a script. We each wrote our own parts, and because we all wanted to say things. And we labeled each section with our name. So we got to the point where I had wanted to say something, so I saw my name, and Lia and I don't have the smoothest switches. That's why I went and got changed, because this is, well, it's not really my shirt. It's, Encanto, Bruno, Nando, and Ray, who have DID. They don't say it, but...
Wait, have you been in here patching the cracks?
Oh, that? No. I'm too scared to go near those things. All the patching's done by Hernando.
Who is Hernando?
I'm Hernando and I'm scared of nothing. It's actually me. I used to say my real gift was acting.
I'm Jorge. I made the sparkle.
Everyone who has DID who watches that movie has to know that they have DID. So it's our switchy shirt. I don't have a whole lot of clothes, and I was fronting yesterday for a while, so I wore my main shirt, so this is the shirt I wound up wearing when I decided to get something that was more mine. Changed the hair just a little bit so I didn't feel like Lia. She has a distinctive hairstyle. But, script. We were talking about... Yeah, I was on the short. Seth and I had a good little laugh. Fortunately, we were able to keep editing. But, I'm one of the main alters in the system. I've been around about as long as we know of, if that makes sense. Autumn's and my memories essentially start around the same time. 10-ish with some flashes of beforehand. I tend to front for Autumn when she gets really panicked or stressed out. For example, she's got a really bad phobia of bees and wasps and ants. She likes to say she has a phobia of hymenopterans because that's the scientific term for those colony insects, whatever, and she wanted to be I don't know the term, but a insect scientist when she grew up when she was really little. So, but if like a bee or a wasp shows up, usually so do I. Fortunately, she and I have some of the smoothest switches in the system, unlike what just happened with Lia and I. So, it's not really inconvenient, and once the wasp flies away, or once we are able to leave the scenario, she can usually come back out easily enough. And if I need to mask and pretend to be her, we try really hard not to pretend to be each other, but if I need to not draw attention to it, she freaks out, the voice gets gravelly, nobody really questions it. When we were in Dollywood, the original plan was to let Autumn front for ideally the whole day. Her parents aren't the most accepting of the system, although they're leaps and bounds beyond where they were a year ago. And honestly, we also figured it could be nice for her and Seth to have a day. We don't really have a whole lot of money at the moment. Money's really tight, so dates for the two of them have been really few and far between, especially when others in the system also want to go and hang out with people and spend money, honestly. So the plan was for it to be an autumn day. That didn't happen. It became a very, very switchy day, which we honestly really needed because we hadn't been able to switch a whole lot being in our parents' house. But the first major ride that Seth and Autumn were planning to do was the lightning rod. It's a big roller coaster that's like, I think it's gimmick is that it's made out of wood, so it's really rickety. But while they were in line for the roller coaster, Autumn started realizing that she'd never actually been on a roller coaster while fronting. The last time we would have been on a ride like that was, God, almost a decade ago at Disney World, which was long before we knew that we were a system, or even knew the term DID and what that meant. God, that was before we were even diagnosed with anxiety. Definitely had it. So looking back, we're fairly certain that Olivia's an alter who recently fused into Lia, but that Olivia was the one who rode the roller coasters and did all those rides and adrenaline rush things back then. But Lia, she really wasn't interested in the rides at Dollywood. She didn't want to have a out and about day. She kind of wanted to get to work on the YouTube stuff, but we were in Tennessee and it was hard for that. So she didn't want to have time fronting, and I'm trying to figure out the most polite way to say what I'm trying to say. Something to do with all work and no play. But, so, Autumn is in the line, realizing as the roller coaster goes roaring past, like, above and around them, she's just like, this seems new. And she kept saying that she was fine. That she was going to be fine. That she was fine with fronting. That it was all going to be okay. Despite getting more and more freaked out as they got closer and closer to the end of the line. So, I started to become more aware and near, I guess, to the front. Even though I wasn't actually fronting. I was just aware enough to know that, hey, I might need to. Like, sometimes Autumn will stay completely front, even though there's wasps way off in the distance, but if they get closer, I know I'll need to front, so I'm aware. I was also kind of comforting her, soothing her, being like, hey, it's gonna be okay. If you can't front, I can handle this, it's fine. Things like that. But no, she was adamant that she would be fine. She had Seth right there if she freaked out, which usually does help and has really lessened my need to front in. She didn't... It was her and Seth's day, so she didn't outright tell me to go away, but I can read behind the lines, between the lines, you know what I mean? Like, so I pulled back. I didn't want to accidentally push her out the body if she started freaking out and I was near, so I completely pulled away from the front. Like, that was it. Like, I trusted her. They've got this. I didn't need to be there. And then the next thing I knew, I was in the body, no Autumn around, and yeah. So, as soon as they got seated, it got seated in the roller coaster, and as soon as it started going up that first incline, that first lurch, Autumn was gone. 100%. I don't know where she went, but it takes a lot for her to be that gone. So now I'm on a roller coaster. Keep in mind, I've never been on a roller coaster either. And now I'm literally seconds away from this giant ass drop.
I heard James shout, "I'm gonna kill her!"
I wasn't the happiest with the situation. But, when the ride ended, my legs were literally sore from bracing them so hard against the inside of that car. I did wind up finding out that I mostly do like roller coasters. I really love the twists and the turns and the adrenaline rush. I loved the feeling of my stomach being left behind. But I didn't really like that. It's gonna sound stupid, but I didn't like the big drop at the start. Like roller coasters, but I don't like the big drops. They had one there, I forget the name of it, but it was lots of twists and turns, and it didn't really have a big, horrible drop, and it was incredible. I could have ridden on that thing all day. But, so we get out of the car, I explained to Seth who was fronting and why, and obviously he'd already figured those things out. But, I ended up staying front until we exited the ride, and we saw Autumn's parents, which, well, that brought her back, and she took over. Autumn wanted to take over this part of the explanation, so preemptively I'm going to go change into some of her clothes and put on a wedding ring, things like that. So hopefully when I sit back down, it will be her. Hi. It's Autumn at the moment. We're well, we're actually doing this, the switches and all the plans, and yeah, we were writing out the script for this video yesterday, and the plan was for everyone to write out what they wanted to say in the order they wanted to say and all of that, and okay, to ground a bit, I'm gonna read read some of what I wrote. I wrote, it's Autumn at the moment. Wow, we're being really switchy right now. We're writing out the script for this video, and the plan is for each of us to write out what we're going to say, which is working. It's working really well, but the three of us have been switching so fast and often that it's hard to tell who's fronting sometimes. Yeah, that was, it was a bit, disorienting for Seth. We'd be asking questions, and then someone would say something, and he'd be like, oh, I thought I was talking to Lia this whole time, it was actually me, or vice versa, or something like that. I mentioned I don't remember writing that. Fortunately, we know some little tricks and tips to make that easier and smoother, switches and transitions. In the script, we have everyone's section labeled with their name, which was great. It's not force fronting anybody, but it's nudging us enough to the front. We also, Lia, before we started, she made me a cup of tea and James a cup of coffee, and I wrote that Lia was going to be drinking coffee too, because she likes her coffee blacker, but apparently she got a cherry Coke. But she lit candles because she knew they're grounding. She put my wedding ring on the desk, and she went and she got clothes for everyone, and she set them off to the side so we could change if we needed to, because it really helps with if we want to. I'm gonna drink some of my tea. Oh darn, we've been going at this longer than I expected. Tea's not as hot as I would have hoped. Hi. Hi. Whew. More than, ooh. Autumn tends to have the most trouble with the filming and the YouTube and all the aspects. She has some She has some really bad anxieties about technology. Some bad traumas tied in with even things like going on the internet. So this pushes her really hard. Rambling in front of a camera is one thing, but reading off a script. Last time we recorded a video, we were using her husband's phone. Now we've got an actual webcam and mic, and I don't think I said, but it's Lia. She was actually having trouble even writing the script. She had actually rambled off at that point, or she wrote like a few more lines beyond what I think she said, and then I mentioned that she was having trouble fronting and that I was gonna take over. Technically we could just pause and she could come back and try and come at it with a clear head, but I don't see the need in pushing her for this video, and okay. And bracelets all the way over there. I'm gonna get back to the story of Dollywood. So after they got off the roller coaster, Autumn fronted back in to interact with her parents. And it was we, because it's a system, but I wasn't present for most of it. It fell into a really good routine for the rest of the day, when they weren't on the rides, Autumn hung out with her parents. Whenever they were in line for a roller coaster, she and Seth got some nice quality time, because some of those lines were like an hour plus. And then whenever they'd get loaded onto the ride, James switched in for the roller coaster bit. Ooh. They did that a couple of times, with a few breaks in between. They had some water rides at Dollywood. Autumn, God, I feel like all we're doing is talking about Autumn's phobias. But she's cool with it. We've confirmed that before we even started the YouTube thing. But she has really bad aquaphobia, specifically with phobia of water hitting her in the face. But fortunately, we have an alter who loves all things wet. Belle is one of the littles in our system. She's not quite sure exactly how old she is, but she definitely knows she's under 10. She loves to swim, and she's desperately begging Seth to take her to the local water park at some point. So this was perfect. Belle actually really loves the act of making the videos and the spotlight on her and all that, so I'm actually going to let her and Seth record them talking about it. Hello.
Tell us about the water rides you went on.
It was it was a tube almost with a bunch of seats in it. Smiley face. And it spun all the way around, and it was wet, and there was geysers. There were geysers. And it was the rapids. It was lots of rapids and ups and downs and splishes and splashes. And one time they did a splash right when I was in the best part, and my whole... This is my left side, right?
Yes.
My left side got all wet, like really wet. Inside of my shoe got all wet. And they were complaining about that for a while. But it was a lot of fun. Mr. Seth rode with me. And in the rest of the cars, there were a bunch of other kids. They were bigger than me, but they weren't bigger than me because I'm not actually little. But they were fun, and they were all arguing over who was getting the wettest.
They were.
And I was the wettest, and they didn't realize that.
What was your favorite part of that ride?
The geysers.
The geysers.
The geysers. It would spush And then it would take forever for the geyser, for the water to fall back down. Like...
They would spoosh it way up into the air.
You would think it was over and done with, and then it would rain.
If it was...
I feel like a baby with a rattle. But it's a Jingle Bell.
If it was completely up to you, how many times would you have gone on that ride?
Until they made me stop.
So when the park closed.
I wouldn't have gotten off. I wouldn't have wanted to wait through the line over and over again. The line was long and we were hungry and we were tired. But I would have wanted to just stay sitting there and keep going through again and again and again.
Well, thank you, Belle.
That's it?
I think that's all that we're talking about today in this video.
Okay.
Don't worry, you'll get to be in more videos.
Aww. Not right now, obviously. Though, boy, I shouldn't have said that. Now she's actually... Hey, it's James. I'll accept the shirt. On the one hand, the script thing is a great idea. On the other hand, it's... yeah. But yeah, last thing that I mentioned was Belle. She had so much fun. It was great. She was soaked. And then we were soaked for the rest of the day. Which wasn't as much fun, but was added to the experience. One shoe got soaked and the other one didn't, so we were walking around with one sloppy shoe all day long. But, we're talking about, like, yeah, there were some hiccups, but it was a pretty good trip. Like, you would think, oh wow, like, all worked out in the end and all that, and not really. I mean, yeah, it didn't end horribly, but it wasn't that sitcom Day at the Beach kind of fun episode. We actually wound up having a really bad unintentional switch. And then we had a really bad dissociative episode and kind of freaked Autumn's husband out. The last ride that we went on was the Wild Eagle ride. We did the thing we'd been doing where Autumn was fronting for the line, and then we got up there and I was fronting for the last little bit. Unlike the other roller coasters we were on Wild Eagle, your legs dangle. You're not in a car, you're strapped into a seat, and there's nothing to brace with. Does anybody remember me mentioning, how aggressively I brace my legs? That wasn't just on the first ride. No, that was a consistent on every ride. Because that first big drop is not my favorite part. I've looked it up since, and Wild Eagle's drop isn't even as high as Lightning Rod's, but oh, it sure seemed worse. As soon as we crested that big hill at the start of a roller coaster and started plummeting, I couldn't stay front anymore, and unfortunately Autumn couldn't come forward either, with everything going on with the ride and the progress. Lia wound up getting pulled to the front, with absolutely no awareness really of the day, with no we weren't communicating as well as we are now back then. It was not great. I did some research, like I said. I looked up the stats, and poor girl started fronting during the middle of a 135-foot drop, followed by 4 inversions, extreme banking, and maximum speeds of 61 miles per hour. All those stats are right off of Dollywood's website. And Lia was not happy. Understandably so. It was a bad panic attack. Most of the time, panic attacks are tied to a system that felt like a system. It was almost like the body had a panic attack, if that makes sense. And there was nothing we could do. After the ride ended, Lia was able to walk the body off the ride and everything to a bench. But then as soon as we got seated and, like, were able to calm the breathing, she spaced out really bad. And no one could front in. It wasn't great, those moments of the body being on complete autopilot and nobody being able to do anything is we're at our most vulnerable, and it's terrifying. Seth at the time was still coming off the adrenaline of the roller coaster, and that was like the second or third intense roller coaster in a short period of time. And so he's coming out of that rush, and then he has to deal with whatever's going on with us, which he'd never really had to deal with before. It wasn't a new experience. Definitely not for the system, but it's the first time he's ever seen it to that degree. And before he even really caught his breath, we were asking him to help ground, to... I don't even remember, but I remember somebody asking him to talk to us, and his head was spinning, and it just wasn't a great experience. Fortunately, Evelyn... I don't know if we've mentioned Evelyn. I'm not really going to go into her right now, but Evelyn was able to front enough to get the system mobile and to do some self-soothing, to direct Seth on how to soothe us more. And somewhat on the walk, because we were about halfway through the park and we had to walk all the way to the exit where the parents were. Autumn was able to front off and on throughout it, but she couldn't front consistently. She couldn't front for long periods of time, which was really inconvenient because right after that we left the park to go to dinner at a Chinese buffet. And on the car ride there, Autumn just completely checked out. None of the rest of us were really present at this time. It was just Evelyn. Which she sounds a lot like Autumn, unlike me. And she doesn't hide the DID, but she doesn't... How do I word that? She's not gonna go up to someone and say, "Hey, I'm Evelyn," if they already know Autumn. Unless it's like a weird scenario. She'll just roll with the punches and just nod along and act like herself, but she can handle having to be Autumn for a bit. So dinner went okay. It was a Chinese buffet in the middle of Tennessee. They actually had crawfish there, which we didn't get, which was somewhat sad because Autumn has been begging for crawfish. We recently got some in the last couple days, but she had been begging and begging for crawfish. Beforehand, like I said, we're broke, so that hadn't happened. And at dinner, at the buffet, Evelyn was like, kind of let her know, and Autumn was still like, nope, not fronting, don't feel well, don't want to be there. So the system was bad off. So yeah, it was a good trip, all in all, but there were definitely some highs and lows, literally, with those roller coasters. We were lucky that Seth was there to help, and that Evelyn was able to step in during an emergency. And unfortunately, that's just the reality of living with DID, is, to make a pun about that short we did, you always have to be prepared for unexpected switches, for bad dissociative episodes. It's amazing how quickly a great day or a great moment can turn into something terrifying when you have trauma responses or dissociative symptoms or anything really. Health issues. Yeah. Lia wants to go ahead and close out the video, so I'm gonna go let her change. I don't know who made my coffee. It was either Lia or Seth, but they did good. Only problem is it's getting cold. Throw it in the microwave. Hi. Wow, I am not going to plan a video like this with this many switches in such a short period of time intentionally for a long time. But I think we're doing good. We are gonna pass out after this, but it's good for the system. It helps with the communication and things like that. But I wanted to close out with talking about some of the I'm just gonna start reading what I wrote and then start ad-libbing it. Wasn't a great day for me at Dollywood. I was really mad at the others, mainly at James, about the situation I got shoved into. But I do understand that it wasn't intentional. And I hate to say it, but it honestly had some positive impacts on the system. When I first fused into who I am, which was within the last 2 months, my communication with the system wasn't great. It was bad. It was bad. I wasn't good at switching. They were all hard and choppy, which you've seen the difference between me trying to switch to someone and James. It was so much worse. Memories weren't even transferring very well, and I wasn't super interested in improving any of those things. I figured they'd just develop over time, which they would have, which they are. But after the fiasco in Dollywood, I started being more intentional, and it's helped a lot. A month ago, we couldn't have done this video in the way that we're doing. I mean, when we filmed our introduction video, you could see that I couldn't retain the memories well of what Autumn had filmed. We've managed to film this without any true blank spots, which is, considering how many switches, impressive. And maybe there were blank spots. Maybe we'll look at the videos and be like, oh, wow, we lost time. But it's not as debilitating as it was. As an alter, I'm still one of the weak links in the system's communication, which isn't my fault. I've only been around for 2 months, and the fusion wasn't expected. So things were complicated in that aspect. But now I'm actively working on improving my communication, and that wouldn't have really happened without the fiasco at Dollywood. I do still wish that nightmare roller coaster wouldn't have happened. Ugh. But You grow. You learn. I hate the saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, because it's a justification for so many people to put people through hell. But there's a truth in it. There's a verse in James about, in the Bible, in James, about, I think the direct quote is, "Consider it great joy, my brethren, when trials and something something." I'm going to actually look it up. Yeah, NIV says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." We were lacking in communication skills, and trials came, and faith and perseverance were tested, and it's nice to know that even if it does have to happen, that at least something beautiful comes out of it. I don't know, just something to think on. I was originally planning on this week including both weekend mini vacations, but this video took way longer than I was expecting. We had way more to say than I was expecting. So we'll talk about going to Rock City on our video next week. That video will actually be a really different format than this one, because we actually remembered to take videos and photos for the channel instead of just looking up images on Google after the fact. I'm looking forward to seeing how different the editing for that video is versus this one. Also seeing how you guys like it versus this one. So yeah, I hope everyone's looking forward to it. The goal is still to post a video every Friday. We're on track for that, actually. We're getting a little ahead of that, if I say that and don't want to jinx myself. And the plan is to do a little short, at least one short every week, either like Monday or Tuesday, just sometime at the beginning of the week. Please subscribe if you want to see more about the Peter system and how we get through the craziness that is our lives. But, bye everyone!